Jonathan Isserby writes for the website Conservative Home, which has close links with Tory activists. When I spoke to him earlier, he said the row in Norfolk has shown that party members feel shortchanged by the process of selecting candidates.
Whereas in the old days, Conservative associations would get to interview, say, 20 candidates, and that would be then whittled down to a shortlist of 6 or 8, and then they'd be whittled down to 3 or 4 before a final meeting. The process, as currently constituted by the party, sees the process happen so quickly and with not as much opportunity for scrutiny of candidates. And I think that's probably the problems we saw here, and that's where the lessons need to be learned.
Why is Conservative Central Office so controlling, seemingly, about the shortlists?
They would say, wouldn't they, that the individual associations get to choose the shortlist of 6, although I would argue that that shortlist should be far longer. But I would say that, you know, Central Office should take as hands-off an approach as possible, because the reason that there's an approved national candidates list is that there are people on that list who the party has basically screened to say, we think these people are appropriate to stand for Parliament. And if people are on that list and they're deemed suitable by the centre to be potential MPs, then these local associations, by and large, should be allowed to do the rest.
This has all been very unedifying, hasn't it? Insults flying back and forth, often on your website. It's exposed some real schisms in the party. Has the party been damaged as a result, do you think?
I don't think it has. I mean, we saw in the vote in Swaffham last night, only, I think, 37 people actually voted against Liz Truss, which showed that it was an incredibly small minority who were pushing for her deselection when it came to the event. And, yeah, the last 3 weeks have not been the finest hour for the party, and certainly not for the party in Norfolk. But I hope we can draw a line under that. And certainly Liz Truss is now in place. She's got an incredibly good mandate from her local association. She can move forward to the general election, and we can elsewhere.
Jonathan Isserby, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, still to come, we're getting ready for children in need. And no drivers.
A new CT scanner at Addenbrooke's hospital has been hailed as the fastest in the world. Experts say it can examine an entire heart in less than half a heartbeat.
Just stretch them out. I'm going to raise you up. Nothing's going to touch your hair, and you're just going to gently glide through the scanner a couple of times.
This is the state-of-the-art technology. It looks the same and is used the same as other scanners.
OK, we're just going to pop the laser lights on.
The body is lined up in position as before, but patients don't need to hold their breath anymore while the scan takes place, and it's faster and more accurate.
We can certainly get through more patients a day, and of course throughput is the absolute key thing for an economic unit, and if we can get an extra 25% of patients done per working day, the net price per patient comes down a little.
Professor Dixon was here at Addenbrooke's when the first CT machine was opened in 1981. Then it took up to 45 minutes for a scan.
Now this one can examine an entire heart in half the time it takes to produce one heartbeat.
The table's now going to move.
The images are clearer too on all scans, covering all of the body for a range of problems.
We have installed about 9 scanners, but this is the biggest incremental step because it's the first time that we're using 2 X-ray tubes, and it really is the holy grail, I think. It has by far the fastest speed, the lowest dose and the highest resolution.
The scanner cost in the region of £1 million. The money was left in a will. Debbie Tubby, BBC Look East, Cambridgeshire.
A man suspected of murder has been released from prison by mistake. 31-year-old Jason Bethel, who lives at Jaywick in Essex, was on remand in Chelmsford. He's accused of killing John Smith, who was stabbed and hit by a car in July. The police are now trying to find him. A pensioner who's fighting to stop his home from falling into the sea is taking his case to the Supreme Court. Peter Boggis has spent £500,000 building up sea defences at Eastern Bavance in Suffolk. Last month, Natural England won backing from the courts to allow the cliffs to erode naturally. The budget airline EasyJet has reported a big fall in profits. The company, which flies from Luton and Stansted, made £54 million over the past 12 months. That's a fall of 50% on last year. Passenger numbers went up, but so did operating costs.
A private psychiatric hospital, which was at the centre of a major fraud investigation, has gone into administration. Two of the directors of Cawston Park in Norfolk were exonerated in court this summer, but the bad publicity has been blamed for a sharp fall in patient referrals.
At Cawston Park today, preparations were underway to move the remaining patients out. In late 2006, the police raided the homes of 3 directors in a fraud investigation. One was the former Tory MP David Pryor, who was cleared without any charge. But 2 others were taken to court, only to be then exonerated by the judge. One of them, Andrew Breeze, says today's closure makes him sad and angry.
My feeling is that what is needed here is a completely independent investigation into what went wrong with the National Health Service Fraud Department, the police and the CPS that ended up in the trial in Ipswich. That was the fatal blow that has led to the closure today, really.
Andrew Breeze blames the whole fraud investigation on a disgruntled former employee who went to the NHS and then the police, claiming the health service was being defrauded. That police inquiry is now under investigation, overseen by the Independent Police Complaints Commission.
It was a very important facility in the county and ultimately it's been destroyed as a result of the investigation and prosecution, and I think there are serious question marks over that investigation and prosecution, and I am pursuing those questions. I think it ultimately deserves a public inquiry to get to the bottom of why it was pursued to the extent that it was.
The few remaining patients should be moved out by early next week. Around 100 staff will lose their jobs. Ian Barmer, BBC Look East.
A supermarket near Norwich was evacuated this afternoon after a pepper spray was released in the store. 300 shoppers were told to leave the Asda store at Helston. 29 people were treated at the scene for breathing difficulties. 2 men in their 20s have been arrested. Staff called police after a number of people complained of feeling ill.
The founder of a charity which sends disused NHS equipment to countries in need has been honoured for his work. Aid to Hospitals Worldwide is based in Bury St Edmunds. It's thought 12 million people have been helped as a result.
Zambia is just one of the 33 countries helped by this charity. Redundant hospital equipment, which would otherwise be dumped or go to landfill sites, is recycled and sent overseas. From computers and wheelchairs to ventilators and X-ray machines.
Cure International in Zambia, they had a building but they had no fittings inside of it. So because of that, we helped them fit out the hospital. There's a mission in Nigeria. We actually gave them a bit of eye equipment that would do eye surgery. And in the first 3 months of that equipment being donated, 600 people received sight.
Today, Suffolk County Council announced they'd nominated Mike for the Queen's Award for Enterprise.
The honour is for everybody that works here as a volunteer.
The 84 volunteers play a key role in sorting through and fixing the equipment.
I work on microscopes. It's so important because you can't do modern cataract surgery without the microscopes and other ophthalmic equipment.
I do much the same thing as I used to do, which is repair computers, make 2 or 3 good computers out of 4 or 5 bad ones.
They want to see more UK charities taking part, sending vital items abroad and helping to reduce the amount of medical equipment chucked away. Dawn Gerber, BBC Look East, Bury St Edmunds.